If you want to continue to follow our adventure, click subscribe. So you don't miss anything, click the bell notification. The other day I made a video where I was talking to you about the campgrounds here in Florida are kind of drying up. The free campgrounds are kind of drying up. And at the Apalachicola National Forest, last year they made a proposal that they wanted to start charging for some of the campgrounds that were free. Now, I recognize a lot of people say, okay, these campgrounds are not free. I recognize tax dollars pays for these campgrounds. But free is the word that I'm going to use to describe these campgrounds. Now, the Apalachicola National Forest fee increase proposal was declined. The hunters came out and said, look, we're not going to pay to stay in this campground. So unfortunately, they did close some of the campgrounds that were free so they could keep some of them open. When I made the video, there was a lot of comments that had solutions to this problem of the campsites being closed down and being paid. And one of the comments that was very pronounced was, since nomads don't pay taxes, they should be required to be monitored, basically is what they're saying. So what they want us to do is to pay a fee, a yearly fee, that tracks our movements from wherever we're going. So we'd have to register for every national forest we went to. First of all, let's address the tax thing. I'm not sure where this idea came that we don't pay taxes. I have an idea, but I pay a ton of taxes. I'm a resident of Missouri. And I know there are going to be people say, oh, you should domicile in South Dakota. Well, I'm going to get to that. So I'm a resident of Missouri. Just the taxes on my truck alone was $400 last year. And then you have city tax. I think that was, I think $60 or something like that. So, I pay a significant amount just to own a pickup truck in my state. And then, of course, I pay federal taxes just like everybody else. I'm not sure. I don't have no dependents. I don't get any refunds. I pay taxes. I also pay into Social Security. Here's what a lot of people don't understand is when you work for an employer, you pay 7% of your Social Security. And then your employer pays 7% of your Social Security. Well, when you make money on your own, self-employed, whatever you want to call it, then you have to pay the full 15% of your Social Security. So that's why I say I feel like I actually pay more taxes, because I don't work for a company, I work for myself. I own a programming business. So now, the reason I think a lot of people say, since you don't pay taxes as a nomad, I think a lot of YouTubers have promoted this idea that when you become a nomad, you're supposed to be a domicile of South Dakota. Because South Dakota, it's really easy to, have a forwarding company or something like that, and they get an address, and it's real easy, and then you don't pay taxes because South Dakota doesn't have a state tax. I'm not getting too terribly political because that's not what we're about. I'm trying to explain to you the downside to becoming a domicile in South Dakota. Well, if millions of people all of a sudden become a citizen of South Dakota, and that are not paying sales tax, because I'm sure that's how they can make their revenue in South Dakota. They have to make money just like every other state. They got to pay for roads and upkeep and all the things that you have to pay for. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to do an income tax just like a lot of the other states do. Now, the other thing you have to think about, and again, I don't want to get too political, but as these people become citizens of South Dakota, now they're registered voters of South Dakota. And so even the political dynamics of the state will change. If it is one party right now, it may change into a different party. And when that happens, laws are going to change to represent what those voters want, even though they don't live in the state. The thing is, I don't think a lot of people understand, is the magnitude of the amount of people that are going to come out to live this lifestyle. It's huge. Almost unimaginable numbers. 1, 2, 3% of the population may end up trying to live a nomadic lifestyle. Now, to talk about the differences between national forests, BLMs, and national parks. The national forest is regulated by the Department of Agriculture. The BLM and the National Park Service is ran by the Department of Interior. So the same department that runs the national park in Washington, D.C., you know, the Washington Monument and all those monuments, is the same department that runs the BLM. Both of these organizations, the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Interior, work together to determine how much money they need to support the BLM, the National Park Service, and the National Forest. Now, the National Park Service has what's called American Pass or something like that. Well, the BLM and the National Forest don't have that currently. But my suspicions is that is what's going to take place, is they're going to follow suit with what the national parks are going to do. When this thing gets so big, you're going to have a fee increase. Well, instead of going around to each national forest and increasing, you know, making a proposal to do an increase, what they'll do is probably maybe put it on a ballot or have Congress vote on it or something like that, because this thing is getting too big. It's becoming its own population, the nomadic lifestyle. I mean, you have, you know, American citizens, you have states, and now you have nomads. And so the government's going to have to do something to deal with it. The other option is they just shut it all down. Now, so many people tell me that's not ever going to happen. You can't shut down living in your car. I have a constitutional right. Well, you may have a constitutional right to live in your car, but I cannot find anywhere where you have a constitutional right to let you even say sleep on the street in your car. The street was voted for by the taxpayers to be built so you could drive from one location to the next. That's the intended purpose of the street. Thanks for watching. Click like if you like the video, and happy travels.